In the far future of the 41st millennium, there is no peace. There is no mercy. There is only endless war. And in this galaxy of horrors, you might imagine that the worst fate is to be caught by the powers of chaos, or dragged screaming into the dungeons of the Drukery. But there is another fate, less infamous but no less terrifying. To fall into the hands of the Orks. To understand what captivity under the Orks means, you first need to understand how the Greenskins think. They aren't interested in ransoms, negotiations, or politics. They don't see humans as enemies worth respecting, or even hating. To them, you're just a puny Yumi, a weak little creature that exists to be laughed at, used up, and eventually smashed. Where chaos seeks your soul, and the Drukery seek your pain, the Orks seek something else entirely: entertainment. They don't need a reason to keep you alive, other than the fact that you're funny to watch. And when that amusement fades, your usefulness is over. The first thing you'll learn as a captive is that Orks are unpredictable. One day, you might be shoved into a pit arena, ordered to fight squigs or fellow prisoners for their amusement. The next day, you could find yourself tied to a post, used for target practice while the boys laugh and place bets on how many shots it'll take to bring you down. Survival isn't about strength, or cleverness, or even luck. Survival depends entirely on whether or not you're amusing. Some prisoners aren't thrown into the arena right away. Instead, they're used as labor, forced to do the jobs Orks can't be bothered with. You might be made to haul crates of crude ammunition, drag fuel barrels for roaring war machines, or scavenge wreckage for spare parts. You'll work alongside the Grots, the Orks' pitiful goblin servants. But unlike them, you're not even part of the system. Collapse from exhaustion, and the Orks won't care. You'll just be another corpse tossed aside for the squigs to chew on. Food? Shelter? Forget it. Orks barely take care of themselves, let alone their captives. If you're lucky, you'll scavenge scraps of fungus or gnaw on whatever the boys toss at you. Sometimes they'll feed you things even they wouldn't touch: half-rotten meat, squig gristle, or things you pray were once food. And if you starve? Well, it's all the same to them. For many captives, the real nightmare is the arenas. Imagine being shoved into a pit while dozens of roaring greenskins crowd around, cheering, laughing, and placing bets. You're given a jagged blade, maybe a broken pipe, and then shoved toward some monstrosity, a squig with fangs like swords, or another prisoner just as desperate as you. The Orks don't see this as cruelty. To them, it's comedy. They'll howl with laughter as you struggle, as you bleed, as you run. Because to an Ork, violence is never tragic, it's always hilarious. And if you think death in the arena is the worst fate, you haven't met the mech boys. Sometimes, a curious Ork engineer will decide you're worth improving. That might mean cybernetic limbs bolted into your flesh, or a crude chainsaw grafted where your arm used to be. Don't expect anesthesia. Don't expect logic. These aren't augmentations, they're experiments. The result is a screaming half-machine, half-corpse that lurches around the camp, endlessly amusing to your captors until the parts wear out or you finally collapse. And here lies the cruel irony. Being a prisoner of chaos means eternal damnation. Being captured by the Drukery means a slow eternity of agony. But the Orks? They don't hate you. They don't even take you seriously. To them, you're not a soldier, not a victim, not even an enemy. You're a toy. A joke. A squig on a leash, valuable only as long as you can make the boys laugh. That's why your life might last longer under the Orks than under other factions. But every day will be filled with terror, humiliation, and the knowledge that you're nothing more than the punchline of a greenskin's cruel joke, and in the end, all Ork prisoners meet the same fate. Maybe you're hurled screaming into the next war, shoved into the front lines as a living shield. Maybe the war boss grows bored and stomps you flat in front of the boys. Or maybe you just waste away in a rusted cage while your captors forget you exist. There are no long-term survivors. None with their sanity intact. To be a prisoner of the Orks is to live as a sideshow in the galaxy's cruelest comedy, an endless nightmare of violence, absurdity, and dehumanization. And in a universe where there is only war, there are few fates more humiliating than being the punchline of an Orks joke. So the next time you hear the guttural roar of war across the battlefield, remember this: death at the hands of the Orks may be brutal, but capture is worse.